The cool kids in the digital age. David and MJ breaking out of the cage. Data nerds with a passion so strong, analyzing numbers all night long. Data running through their veins, crunching numbers, feeling no pain. They're the kings of algorithms, can't be beat.
Wow.
Wow.
Data nerds tonight, get on your feet.
Yeah, wow, that's fantastic. Okay, well, let's get started. Yeah, so tomorrow is long weekend, Australian Day long weekend. I'm very glad to be sitting with you today, and we had this very, very brief chat before we start recording. Sounds to me that this thing, you probably want to define in a bit more detail a bit later. Like this thing, kind of just change your habit in
Yeah.
terms of how you work, right?
Yeah.
And you've been as a software developer for a very long time, and so
Yeah.
you've been doing developing stuff. So I think it will be really good to, like, before we jump into the Bing chat,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
maybe
Exactly.
just give us a bit of like how, like, more specifically, what were you doing before, and like what changed?
Okay. All right. So before, right? In particular, I'll probably put in a date, right? Which is November 2021. So before November 2021, you know, like the way I do stuff, right? Like let's say I need to work on something. I'll create two scenarios, right? One is about creating contents, like whether it's a document or a blog post or anything like that. I always struggle finding what to write. I always kind of like work backwards in terms of like doing the research first and like assembling items like, oh, I like that reference, and like try to get that, put that here, try to get that, put that here. um and like from that point in time, that's the only time you can create a draft, right? Like, you need to assemble pieces together manually, right? Like, I mean, the technology is in there to do the search and like find information, but the assembling aspect or the processing aspect is still for you to do, right? Same goes with researching and like finding solution to you have to Google your way out, or you have to go to Stack Overflow, like copy the the questions and like solutions and stuff like that, and try to put that to your editor and then try to run it. Okay, so that was kind of like the workflow back then. Now what changed is that I don't know if you want to call it lazy, but I think the way I want to put it is that much more direct or much more intent approach into things. So that just means that this time around, if I want to search for information, or if I've already decided what sort of output I want to create, um, I'm gonna basically just ask either ChatGPT or Copilot or Bing Chat, whatever tool it is, right, to generate a draft for me. And like this already assembles the pieces for you, right? And then you basically work backwards in terms of finding what citations, what references are you basing it from, right? So that's like what changed, in terms of like that. Let's say I want to create a you know, not a blog post these days, most likely like a presentation, right? Like I want to create a draft of like the flow of my PowerPoint, right? So probably want to go to Copilot or ChatGPT and hey, assemble the thought posting for me, and then kind of like list down all the references, and then I'm gonna explore further from there, right? And then when I do coding now, or like working on data engineering, Python stuff and things like that, it's always the same, right? Like I have an objective, generate the code for me, and like now let me test it out if it works. Then come back to you and like, oh, this doesn't work. Try to change this, try to change that, right? So I think that workflow really have changed a lot since then. Let me just show and explain it, okay? So back in the days, there's well, I would say back in the days, which is like year and a half
Back in the
ago,
days.
there's Bing.com, right? The website, believe it or not, Bing exists. It's a Google, it's a search engine similar to Google, right? And then in particular, what changed then is that with Bing, this was before the UI is different, right? Like this is like Bing, okay? You have to type it in, search, and then, stuff like that. And then what happened is that they introduced this feature called chat. Now back then this was called chat. And like somewhere
Oh,
here, it's gonna show you like, if you type in a question, then the answer will be in here, right?
yep.
So basically Bing integrated chat GPT within the application, right? Like AI chat, Bing AI. Now it's all just called Copilot. Okay. So that's why the URL now is that from bing.com, going to Copilot tab, you can just go to copilot.microsoft.com. So now that copilot.microsoft.com is literally that instance of, the Bing AI chat without the search. Like it's just all about the Copilot stuff, right? And here's the thing. There are different tiers within Copilot, right? So this one a personal Copilot instance, meaning it's targeting a personal Microsoft account. So that's targeting my personal Microsoft account there. So the outlook.com. So it's tied into my personal Microsoft account. So the your account you use for your Xbox gaming and like the MSN days and stuff like that. That is what you're gonna use here. However, there's also a Copilot for the enterprise, like if you're in a Microsoft consulting company or Microsoft partner ecosystem, you probably are using Office 365 or Microsoft 365. And then going to that same URL, copilot.microsoft.com, allows you to log in using your work account. In this case, my Playtime Solutions account, right? But then here's the main difference you would see, right? If you go side by side, right, you might notice something that's a bit different, right? There's this thing here on the upper right portion called protected. So the thing here is that because you're working under the work account, some there might be some concerns around exposing data, or like you're sending data to chat gpt, or you're feeding the model and stuff like that. But this logo here shows you that, hey, by using this, it's actually protected. Like whatever you type here, it's not going to be fed into the model. All right, but in terms of like the capabilities, there's so much stuff. It's that's kind of like different from each other, right? So just think of it like Copilot for work, or the 365 ecosystem is really revolving more on your work files and your work kind of like workflow, meaning your emails, your Excel sheets and stuff like that that's related for work. They're all going to be integrated within the Copilot ecosystem here. However, for the personal one, it's almost like that, but obviously not the um, the work stuff. Meaning like maybe your personal, Excel files as well, like personal finances and like maybe your personal OneNotes and things like that. That's probably what you're gonna use it for. Cool. All right. What I want to focus on actually for today is more on the personal Copilot stuff, like things you can actually use the personal one. And you might actually see here there's that, pop up saying that there's a Copilot Pro. Um, we can tackle that in the future session, what this features does. But even without the Copilot Pro, there's so much you can actually do already with Copilot just on its own. Um, well, first off, like it already gives you a lot of options here, right? Maybe let's try this one. Create a table and compare, top selling women's running shoes, right? So if you look back then, right? Like how would you actually do this, right? Create a table that compares top selling women's shoes, right? So back then, what you would do is first you have to research or get the data about top selling women's shoes, right? Like you have to Google that out, right? And then second, you have to create an Excel file and copy paste those results, right? And then third, you have to do the comparison yourself somehow. But here you go, right? Like it just kind of like
Wow.
generated that for you. The other thing I also want to showcase here is that this might take a while, but but let's give it a try, okay? This, let's say, creative, write a song about David and MJ, who are data nerds. Okay, so we'll see what it comes up
Oh.
with. So you see that there's that Suno. So Suno
Yeah.
is a plugin that actually generates that kind of like lyrics and even the sound for you, right? But there you go.
They're the cool kids in the digital age. David and MJ breaking out of the cage. Saying nerds with a passion so strong, analyzing numbers all night long. Data running through their veins, crunching numbers, feeling no pain. They're the kings of algorithms, can't be beat.
Wow.
Wow.
Data nerds tonight, get on your feet.
Yeah. Wow. That's fantastic.
Yeah, like that's why I'll tell you this is really something, man. Like it's not just text anymore, right? It's now starting with music, then later on with videos, with image, everything, right? Like
My son is, so at the moment he's doing cello lesson like right now. Yeah, so this is very timely, and part of me is just thinking about, what's the point of him learning cello or any musical instrument, you know?
unless he's gonna produce, right? That's probably the depth onto it, right? Like just like unless he wants to create his own music, right? His own kind of like orchestra, composition or something. I think that should be the goal, right? But if it's just learning an instrument, that is probably a bit subjective, right?
But wouldn't it be the opposite? Like the whole point is then just becomes the satisfaction in learning a thing and being able to actually play the instrument. Because with the way that the technology is going,
Oh yeah,
is
it
there
could be.
any
Yeah.
point in him being able to produce music? Like, I think the whole point is that just we're doing it for our internal peace of mind kind of purposes,
Yeah. Well,
almost to say that,
ex-
okay, I can still do this stuff.
exactly, right? I mean, I think it's still the same analogy about, why learn basketball if there's already LeBron James, right? Like, those type of things, right? I mean, playing basketball is fun, especially, if you're with your friends and things like that, right? But if your objective is to compete or like be professional about it, then that's where really it becomes, a question of is it practical to do so, right? But if it's for leisure and like a way to kind of like, as a hobby, that should be fine, I guess. Yeah. With things like Copilot, it already filters like bad stuff, like at least on the outright that's like bad. Um, yeah, so I think I'm still on the optimistic side that you know um we we can do better, like we as a society or like a society we can still do better. And like one good example would be face technology, man. Like back then face technology has always been biased with just the Caucasian people, right? But now it has improved since then for people of color and of Eastern descent as well, right? So those things, right, those matter, and those little steps like changes needs to happen from time to time. And I think it's not a one-off thing, and I think it's a whole journey for us as a whole.
Yeah, let's definitely end on that positive note today.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're running out of time. So, but thank you for sharing, Sona, the whole Copilot thing, with us today. And yeah, it's amazing. I'll have a lot of things to think about. I'll actually show my kids and see
Yeah.
what they think about the music that got generated. Yeah.